Welcome to the Personal Development Trailblazers Podcast, part of the Digital Trailblazer Podcast family. This podcast is dedicated to bringing you experts and trailblazers to help you grow, learn, love, and help you transform into your best self.
Welcome back, Trailblazers. If you're new here, I'm Alicia. Today, I'm talking with Daisy Papp. Daisy, it's so good to meet you and have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much for your kind invitation.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Why don't you take a second and tell people a little bit about what you do?
In short, saving humanity the best way I can. And it's a big project and it's a big undertaking. I bring human values back into fashion. And I do that by reaching out to officials, and I do that in one-on-one sessions. I do that with workshops, and I do that in the seminars, and also in a podcast. The Bald and Blonde Mindset Evolution podcast currently has listeners in 102 countries.
Wow, that is so awesome. I love how you frame that. You're bringing it back into fashion. I think that's not only clever, but also so much needed. And so I'm super excited to have this conversation. Why don't you tell me first, before we dive into what you're currently doing, tell me how you got here. How did all of this get started for you?
It started with my own fate, that I became an orphan at 17, and that was not easy to survive because these were two accidents where when I was 8, my father and my grandparents on my father's side and my mom crashed in a car. My mom was the only survivor and I was supposed to be in the car. And when I was 17, my mom, my godfather, and my brother went to fly out to Geneva. I'm originally from Germany, and I was supposed to be on the plane, and 2 days later the plane crashed. So I became an orphan, and that was not an easy start at a 17-year-old or young woman or teenager at the time. And so I developed certain physical ailments that no one knew any answer to. And I almost died. And then I met a lady who did something while she was doing something physically with me. She spoke to me. And for the first time, I felt better after the plane crash. And then I realized, I don't know what she just did, but that's exactly what I want to study. And that studying that never ended. I'm still learning. I feel sometimes like a knowledge vacuum. So I'm very selective, but I'm continuously learning and growing and evolving. And I bring that then to my clients or the people who ask me to help them. Mm-hmm.
Well, what a beautiful way to turn around a story that is tragic. And I'm so sorry for all of your loss. I'm so thankful that you were able to pivot and find a way to help other people. That's awesome.
Well, I do believe that when I was able to survive that, I understand that there are much worse cases and much more horrifying situations that people live through and endure. But when I'm able to thrive, then I know others can too.
Absolutely.
And that's my message.
Absolutely. So what does it look like now when you have grown through all of that, and now you're turning around and helping people who are going through something similar? What does it look like when you're helping them? How are you reaching to them and helping make changes in their lives?
Well, so usually I'm the one who is found. Mostly it's referrals, or they hear me somewhere talking, and then that is how they approach me. Well, it is very simple. All my clients have an emotional backpack, me included. I do believe all humans have that. And I like to take an inventory of the emotional backpack. Let's have a look what's in there that we want to keep. Some things can be recycled. Some other things can be just absolutely thrown overboard. And then we have some empty space. Now, in this empty gap, I know it will fill up naturally over time, but I'm using exactly that short time window, and I fill up that gap with very empowering and very easy to utilize skills and tools. One tool is the island model. That's psychological metaphor. I did not come up with it, but I further developed it from a German psychologist and management trainer. And since 2011, I further developed that, and I wrote 2 books about that. That is very helpful. All my clients go through the island model because that gives us such a wonderful basis. And then the next one is the 5+2. That's ended into a big book over 300 pages in 2017, The Formula for Finding True Love, that has not really directly to do with romantic love, but with finding love within and connecting and establishing and enhancing it and growing it, nurturing it and enabling it to be established. And then when that is in there, then we can go and have a look. Okay, so how do we utilize that? Communication skills are very, very important, because everything we do in interactions is communication. Yeah. And I do believe that everything is relationship. My relationship to my screen, my relationship to food, my relationship to my environment, my community, my family that lives with me, or the extended family. And I think when we understand these principles, that through the island model and the 5+2, everything falls into place, because self-development is not really taught in school. And especially it's not taught that when someone says something hurtful to me, that doesn't make me it. That's their opinion of me. And Quincy Jones said it beautifully when he said, not 1 ounce of my self-worth depends on your opinion of me. And that is when we understand that's the island model, that helps us understand that other people live in their island. They have the right to perceive what they perceive, how they perceive it, and I have the right to perceive it the way how I can perceive it and how I evaluate it. And then it's possible to build bridges. And relationships around the world are absolutely beautifully impacted and affected by these learnings.
Absolutely. I love the symbolism of the backpack. And unpacking and taking inventory, and then having that gap where you can fill. Thank you for explaining the island model. I was going to ask exactly what that entailed, and I'm sure you could expand on that even more. But I would love to also have you touch on, what is the 5+2? I haven't heard that before.
Yeah. The 5+2, I developed it over the past 13, 14 years. Then one of my clients in 2014, she said, Daisy, you must write that as a book. And I don't really like when I'm told what I must do. and she was right. Actually, in 2016, something happened in my personal life. And then I really sat down and wrote that book in 6 weeks. It took another year approximately to really put it in order, and the copy editing, typos, and the formatting process and the publishing process. And the 5+2 actually is based on very simple, measurable behaviors that help me understand, am I loved, or am I just told that I'm loved? How many Julios or how many Juliets were told, oh, I love you, and then they were stabbed in the back? That most of the time comes because we have no idea what love is. Love is so mistaken. The word love, I love you, is so overused and therefore deflated its essence. But when we understand what love is, I say love is not only a feeling or a phrase, but love is behavior. And the 5+2 are 5 points plus 2 points, how we can measure if we behave in a loving way.
I love that. So what tips or advice can you give to someone because as you said, we all are carrying around this backpack. Where can they start to kind of take an inventory of what's in it, and then not only acknowledge, but deal with what we've been carrying around?
Well, it is possible to do the work yourself. I do believe in groups and community. I see it when I do workshops. There is such a dynamic that it is just extraordinary how fast results kick in and show. It is also, of course, important that you find someone to speak about it who has integrity. Sure. That's also very rare nowadays, especially in this industry. Yeah. And someone who's trustworthy. Now, how do you know how to trust? And that comes the 5+2 again in, because how many people we believed at first, oh, I can trust them. And then over time, I felt betrayed. Now, when we prevent these from further occurring, then we can develop a self-esteem and a self-worth and a self-evaluation that really has essence of value. And these vicious cycles can stop. So I think self-development is very important. I do believe it is very important that we focus and listen to who we listen to, because people reveal their value and their human values in their work as well.
Yeah.
So I would not go to the one who has the greatest social media accounts, but I would really go for the value and the essence of it. For example, sometimes people tell me, well, you are not really on social media. No, I'm busy. I'm busy writing books. I'm busy creating empowering audio programs. I'm busy creating freebies. Yeah, so things that are complementary that people can start with. And I'm not focusing on social media, and I'm not really wishing to support these industries and businesses.
I really love that. And I am going to ask you in just a minute what you're doing on the marketing side to reach people. Before I get into that, because I think that's very interesting in 2024 when we're recording this, for someone to say, I don't really want to do that, and I don't really want to play that game. As someone who has recently stepped back a bit from social media, I definitely can appreciate that statement. So like I said, I'll get into that in just a minute. Before we do, I would love to ask you about some of your proudest moments or biggest successes that you've had in working with clients. And I'm sure you could go on for days and days with stories, but is there one that stands out that you would like to share?
Well, there are two that come to my mind. One is a world-class athlete who had a breakdown, and he had to compete 2 days after meeting with me. And I had exactly an hour and a half to spend time with him, because then he had to fly overseas to appear at the event where he would protect his world title, the world champion title. And in this time, he called me doc. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychotherapist. And I asked him not to, but he continued calling me doc. And he said, oh, doc, I've never been so deep. And it was really something that was from a very, very early childhood, a moment that just was unhealed or unattended and ignored for so long. And then that's why it's so important that we look at the emotional backpack, because these are like unexpectedly exploding or imploding in our life and impacting us and our peak performance. Now, as a world-class athlete, you need to deliver peak performance when you're there. And so that was one of very impactful for me, that he flew out and he won his world championship again. So that was very, very powerful, because in that short amount of time, he didn't know me before. I didn't know him before. I didn't even know he existed. And so didn't he not know that I existed. And another really stunning, very recent feedback that I received, I developed a Sleep Ease. That's the name of the program, Sleep Ease. That's a baby sleep program, and it's an audio program for babies and parents. And so I have a client of mine, and she's pregnant currently with a second child, and the first baby boy, 13 months young, he never slept one night through in his life.
Bless her heart.
Imagine. And being pregnant now. So that's wow. And so she had the baby program for the baby boy. She played it to him, and the baby for the first time slept through the night. And that is a feedback like, whoa. These are two that came to my mind. But yes, you're right. I probably could write a series of books of stories that are really touching.
Absolutely. Well, just so you know, everyone who's listening is going to be commenting and saying, tell me more about that program, because
it works for the seniors too. We have a grandmother, for 5 years, she says that she suffers insomnia, and now she can sleep with the baby program through the night.
I love that. That's very cool. So we'll definitely want to link that in the show notes as well. So very cool stories. I love both of those. Okay, so now I want to transition a bit into what you're doing to find people to work with. I know you mentioned writing a book, so I'm sure you have some traffic coming in from things that you've done in the past. But since you're not really doing social media, talk to me about what it looks like on the marketing side of your business.
I don't think that I do marketing. I do believe my marketing is me, how I behave. Because I am my business card. Yeah. So what I do on a daily basis, how I speak with people, how I am solution oriented, how I am capable of providing conflict management, and people find me. it's word of mouth, or maybe, I don't know, there's energies in the universe that I cannot measure, but sometimes it seems very, very measurable emotionally. And of course, I do the workshops and the books. Yes, of course, people write to me and they comment and they reach out and they thank. Also, the podcast is a route where we also speak about that. Yeah, for example, when somebody would like to be an organizer for a workshop, because I don't know their community, I can only be physically in one spot at a time. So I offer that people can become an organizer for a workshop for their groups and their audience, and then they get a percentage of the ticket sales, and that also works very well.
Very cool. So with the podcast, I know you mentioned it's in over 100 countries. Have you done any marketing of the podcast at all, or has that all been organic growth?
Organic.
Wow.
We did not have the budget at the beginning. We started in 2020. My podcast partner from Down Under, she found me. That's very important to her, so that's why I mentioned that. And she found me online, actually, and she reached out. I would like to do a podcast with you, and that's what happened. And she always felt that she represents the audience, or humans who have maybe challenges and questions, and that she thought that I was the expert. I don't consider myself as an expert. I lived many moons and my life was very full with a lot of experiences and practice, and over 15,000 one-on-one sessions. That's a number when I look back. And so back to the marketing, we don't market, and I don't market, and I don't want to market, because I see so much misleading online that I do believe that when someone has interest, invite me to your show, invite me into a Zoom call. I can share with you what I do when you're interested. And that is how it grows, because when someone meets me through questions they have, and I'm open to meet over Zoom, that is marketing. Because I give them value, and all I give them is me and what's in my brains and in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say that exactly what you just said. That's still marketing, but it is marketing that you resonate with and that you feel good about, and it's natural to you. You're networking and finding a way to communicate and just live out what you're doing. Yeah.
Yes, I live it.
Yeah,
yes.
I love it. So, as you look forward to the future, I know you've got the podcast, you've gotten your books. What are your next plans for growth?
Well, so one is the workshop organizer idea, so that people can organize a workshop, for example, where you are located. Maybe you have a group of people who are interested in self-development 2.0, or maybe the next level, or how to go the fast track. I currently don't know anything that works faster, including the inverse. That is another thing that is developed and is also complementary available, and that's just absolutely stunning. We have psychologists and psychotherapists who want to learn that because they want to utilize that in their praxis. So that is the next step. And of course, overseas there's a lot going on. I'm on many shows, I'm interviewed, I'm asked, and there are many projects that I'm involved in. I have founded 2 years ago the Daisy Papp Mindset Evolution Foundation, when people want to support what we are doing, that we want to bring the human values back to the forefront, because that solves everything. When a human is valued with human values, then they will behave more like a humanely valued human.
Yeah.
And that's the job every single one of us has. When we want peace in the world, then we must make peace within ourselves and make peace between the feminine and masculine aspects all of us have inside. And then that peace will be brought into this world. And every one of us is actually responsible for the level of peace we can see in the outside world.
Well, I think that's a really powerful message. I know as far as marketing, you're doing what feels really good to you, and that if I said anything about doing anything on social media, that's not going to feel authentic to who you are. I do want to ask though, with your podcast, are you also putting it on YouTube?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Because if you were only doing audio, I was going to say definitely put that on YouTube, because
it is.
yeah,
We
that's
focused and did audio only, and we had only a few episodes over the past 4 years that were filmed like with video
Mhm.
and put out there. But we have some episodes since earlier this year that are up, and we will see where that goes.
Very good. Yeah, I can see that being a really powerful tool to grow even further. Yeah, I love this conversation. I think it's such an important conversation to have, and so many people need to hear it. We didn't get too much into the inverse and what all that entails, but I do want to ask you to tell people where they can go to connect with you more. So please tell them a little bit about that and where they can go to find out how to connect with you.
The easiest is to go to daisypapp.com, and you find everything on there. That's like an umbrella where you can see what I do. And you can find the podcast there as well, or you can find the podcast Bald and Blonde Mindset Evolution on all big streaming services. And when you want to read about inverse, there's a free mini ebook that you can download, and you can do it on your own, or you can maybe establish a group and invite me there, and then we learn together what inverse is and how it works and how you can utilize it. It's very powerful. We have globally wonderful feedback. I have a group in Europe where we meet once a month. In the beginning, we met once a week, and now they're practicing all by themselves, and I'm sort of a supervisor and help a little bit here and there. And so the easiest is there's a contact form on daisypapp.com. You can reach out there and send me an email.
Yeah.
When you reach out on social media, I'm not reading these messages frequently, so it may take a week or two until I see them, but the daisypapp.com website is the fastest, and inverse is lovely. So it's about the law of resonance, and when I stop resonating within me with external events, when I stop resonating with that, then it has no impact on me anymore. It's very powerful.
Yeah. I love it. So Daisy, thank you so much for being here, for sharing all of this value with our audience. It's been such a great conversation. I could go on for hours and hours, but I'll honor your time today and let you go. Thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation and your interest in my work. I appreciate it.
It's absolutely my pleasure. For everyone who's listening or watching, for everything that we have talked about in this episode, I will link it in the show notes so that you can find it easily. You can get into what inverse is and find out more about it. Get Daisy's free gift for you. I'll link everything in the show notes. So go grab those, share this episode, like and subscribe wherever you're listening, and we'll see you in the next one.